Welcome back to another Popcorn Banter Mini. Keegan, good to see you again.
It's good to be back once again.
Well, once again, we're going to be talking about The Mandalorian. And this time, we're going to be delving into chapter 14, the tragedy. And there was quite a lot for us to dig into. So let's just get straight into it. Well, as we normally do, let's go through our good, our bad, and our interesting. So, Keegs, why don't you kick it off? What did you find good about this episode?
The good about this episode was, and this might surprise you, the team up, kind of like the superstar team up that we had with the fight scene where you had the Mandalorian. I should have written the girl's name down because that escapes me. Finnick. Yeah. I completely forgot her character in the first place anyway, but she was a really good addition. And the Mandalorian, that fight scene with them against the Stormtroopers I really enjoyed it. The Stormtroopers were kind of just like your basic video game characters that give you like minimal XP sort of thing. They were really useless, but there was some really cool scenes. Like I had written down here the Raiders of the Lost Ark boulder scene where the boulder gets shot and then she pushes it off the edge of the cliff and it rolls over and takes out some of the Stormtroopers. I thought that was awesome. I really enjoyed that.
That's so funny because you and I haven't talked about this off camera, but two things that you just said were literally exact thoughts that I had while watching the episode. So I completely forgot about Finnick. Actually, I think the exact words that came out of my mouth when she popped up on the screen and he was all like, "Oh, it's you." I was like, "Who's that?"
And I watched the recap that goes into the episode that comes on first, and I'm like, "Oh, she's going to be in this episode, I think." I don't remember her. And then
I really need to start watching those recaps because whenever they come on, I'm just flicking through my phone.
They add a bit of context to the episode, so they always help.
The second thing is what you said about Raiders of the Lost Ark, the boulder. I totally called that when she was doing it. I was like, that is Raiders. That's exactly what they're doing.
I have it written in my notes, Raiders of the Lost Ark boulder scene. So that's exactly what I thought when I saw it.
The other thing that came into my head while I was watching that scene is, can anyone actually confirm that a stormtrooper has ever actually shot anyone?
There might have been a scene, actually the first of the sequel.
In The Force Awakens. Yeah.
The Force Awakens, where they had the people all rounded up. Didn't they shoot them? But they were from point blank range.
Yeah, that doesn't count though, because they're civilians. They didn't have guns. Yeah, they were at point blank range. But in a firefight,
I actually had in my notes, stormtroopers equal disposable low XP video game. Like that's exactly what was coming to my mind when I was watching it.
That's exactly what they are. Well, my good for the episode isn't much different to that. So I just had I love the fast-paced action of it all. There were no silly subplots this week. It wasn't a lot of the classic quid pro quo stuff that we get from the Mandalorian week in, week out. It was fast. It was fun. Great team up. It was a really quick episode too.
It felt quick. But it was just that, like, he landed on the planet, put Grogu on the rock, and everything just sort of happened. And it was just all like, it was a good episode because there was no traveling around. There was no doing anything. It was just there.
It's funny that you mentioned the low XP video game character thing, because the Mandalorian would really lend itself to a video game if they decided to make one. I think that could definitely be in its future.
Absolutely.
Well, okay, so that takes care of the good. What about the bad? What didn't you like about this episode?
Like we were saying, I really enjoyed the episode. It's just more so they've never explained, and it's I feel like a broken record, but they're not going to explain how Boba Fett survived, and it really, really frustrates me. And the fact that he's kind of a protagonist now, and we've kind of grown up with him as one of the villains of cinema history pretty well. But I just don't think we're going to get that explanation. I think it's just kind of accepted. He said at one point, she was left for dead on the sands of Tatooine, as was I. I'm like, you weren't left for dead on the sands of Tatooine. You were eaten. Like, it just doesn't, they're never going to explain it. And it really frustrates me.
Yeah, you're probably right. I mean, there's a chance they could explain it during the opening sequence of next week's episode when they're like, I can imagine them now like sitting in the ship but Mando doesn't know that he got eaten, so why would he even ask him? That's the other thing.
Maybe he's just telling him about his history or something. But if they come up with a really good explanation of how he escaped the stomach of something with all these teeth, like he died, like we've seen him die. But I enjoyed the character. I do enjoy what he's doing. He was pretty badass with that weapon that he had. So not too much of it. It's a bit nitpicky, but it's also, I just don't think they really care about the people that are too old to watch The Mandalorian. So
yeah, and my bad for the week is along the same lines. And again, I don't want to be too nitpicky either. So I will say this, that I didn't have a problem with how Boba Fett's resurrection, if you want to call it that, was executed. I actually thought they did it really well. Like I thought his appearance in the show was fantastic. And if he had been a character from the original trilogy who hadn't have died and had have just sort of drifted off into the abyss or something, then that would have been really cool. But the fact is, the guy died. We saw it, you saw it, I saw it, everyone saw it. He got thrown into that 1,000-year monster death thing.
Sarlacc pit.
He died. He's dead.
There was lots of teeth, and there was lots of like, who else survived that? And that's something that I really was my problem with the latest Star Wars movie, The Rise of Skywalker. Like, we saw Palpatine die.
Yeah.
And then he was just back without really explanation. Like, we saw him die in this latest one. Like, is he still dead? Can he come back? And they really play it fast and loose with dying and being resurrected in Star Wars with just, it fits. We need it to happen, so we'll just bring him back.
They do. And that brings me to my second point is that, yes, like you said, they brought Palpatine back, and Disney doesn't seem to have any problem with resurrecting people or retconning what has gone before it, which means, is Ben Skywalker going to come back from the dead in a future TV show or a future movie? Like, are all the people that we currently consider as dead, like Luke, Ben Skywalker, or Kylo Ren, depending on which one you prefer to call him, are they going to come back? I just don't like it. Like, dying needs to mean something in TV. Like, you need to have that on the line. Otherwise, it loses everything.
Yeah, because it's almost like we've seen this person die. It was pretty relevant and to the story that we're watching, but almost what's the point? Because we know they could be brought back at any time.
The other thing I wanted to say about Boba Fett, and you kind of touched on it, is that he should have a pretty dangerous vendetta against Jedis or Force-sensitive people. And I know that Grogu isn't a Jedi and he's only just a little baby, but Mando would know what he is. And not Mando, Boba Fett would know what he is. And his history is that his father was killed, granted in battle, by Obi-Wan Kenobi. So he should really hate the Jedi and hate Force-sensitive people.
He was killed in battle with Luke Skywalker.
Yeah.
So it's kind of full circle, but now he's going to help out baby Yoda, Grogu.
I don't know. It's weird. Like, it worked for the episode. It was a really enjoyable episode. I thought Boba Fett was actually terrific in it. Like, his presence gave me like Power Rangers flashbacks. Like, when the old Rangers would come back into updated modern episodes.
Yeah.
That's what it really felt like to me.
Well, when you saw his ship come in, like, that ship is so iconic. And that was like a really cool thing to just see come in. And now obviously Mando's going to be going away in that because the Razor Crest was destroyed, which is massive. I feel like that was kind of glossed over, but that's a big deal, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I've been calling for a few weeks for the Razor Crest to get retired. I mean, how many times has that thing been beaten up? They'll find some way to resurrect it. Mando will.
It's his iconic ship. It will come back at some point, but I guess with the Razor Crest being gone, so's the tracking beacon. So he's kind of off the grid now.
Yeah, very true. Although they don't need the tracking beacon because they've got the child.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, what about interesting? What have you got under that category?
Well, interesting. At one point at the very end, what is it? The villain, what's his name?
Moff Gideon.
Moff Gideon told his stormtroopers to set their guns to stun. I'm like,
Yeah.
Shrek reference?
Isn't that a Star Trek thing?
So that was an interesting one.
Maybe Disney forgot what franchise they actually own for a second.
Exactly. Like, oh yeah, set your faces to stun. That's Star something. Yeah, chuck it in. So I found that a bit of an interesting one. But like the whole episode set up a really interesting. I think we're going into the second last episode next.
Yeah.
The pentultimate and then the final episode. So yeah, I'm waiting until they come out. I'll be watching them straight away. Super interested to see what they're doing with this Grogu and what they're going to do to him and how they get him back.
Yeah, well, what I found interesting was what Grogu was doing on that stone. Actually, that sentence sounded a bit weird.
Phrasing.
But it seemed like he was doing some pretty powerful kind of Jedi stuff on that stone, almost like force FaceTiming all the other Jedis in the world.
True.
I wonder.
You're right. They made a big deal out of it, made it a big blue beacon sort of thing, and then nothing really came from it. So there has to be some fallout.
My assumption is that it's going to be some sort of like way to contact the Jedi, like a beacon, and any Jedi in the galaxy, if there are any left, will get some sort of feeling that there's someone out there that needs help or something like that. But I can't imagine there's too many. There would be Luke, Ahsoka. I don't know who else. I don't know how many.
I've seen videos on YouTube where they explain a lot of where all the Jedis that survived Order 66. What was the main character from the video game most recently? The Star Wars video game?
Oh, I played it and I still can't remember. I know you're talking about. Yeah,
he's out there somewhere as well. So there's Jedis out there.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, well, it's going to be interesting. I mean, a lot of people online have been saying that Sebastian Stan looks a lot like Luke Skywalker or Mark Hamill as a young man, and that he could play a young Luke, which I'd be okay with, but I wonder
how the reception would be to a recast of Luke Skywalker. That's massive.
I don't know. Well, if you had to ask me last year, I wouldn't have thought they'd bring Boba Fett back from the dead, so who knows? Well, okay. What about just your general thoughts about the episode? How do you feel about how it was put together? Where do you see the last couple of episodes of the season going?
Well, I think they've hit just a really good path at the moment. They started, like you said, a bit rocky, and I was like, oh, okay, it's just the weekly episodes of Mandalorian. There was nothing really bringing you back, but now there is common story thread. There's things that will make you want to watch the next episode. I think all the episodes at the moment are hitting that 8.5 out of 10 mark. They're really, really enjoyable. So I love it. I'm really excited to watch the rest of it. And where's it going to go? I have no idea. But it looked like they were not doing some good things to Baby Yoda. And I don't know. I did not feel good about that. So I really want them to get him back before they do too much.
Yeah. And I actually just realized that I forgot something from my bad. And that's that I felt Mando lacked a little bit of emotion when Grogu was taken. I know that it's not really the Mandalorian way to sort of like stomp around and get really upset about situations. But I actually thought that would have added more presence to the moment.
Yeah.
The fact that he isn't someone that does that, and if he had of, it would have been a big deal.
Yeah, well, he did leave Baby Yoda on that rock a couple of times and go much further than I would have thought he would have gone, and then not come back. And those dark troopers, they were very quick through the air, and then they kind of landed about 10 meters away from him. I'm sure he would have had time to get there, but it's, I suppose.
Well, I thought that at the time. I was like, don't leave the rock. Just stand there and snipe them or something. Like, I'm sure you've got some sort of long range gun on that bat belt of yours.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So in terms of overall, I love the episode. However, we mentioned last week that the Ahsoka episode was the best that they've produced so far in both seasons. I think that's still the case. this week's episode wasn't as good as last week's episode, but it was still really good. It was a very action-centric episode. Obviously it progressed the story pretty significantly at the end by Grogu being taken. But yeah, I just thought it was a really fun, really quick episode. And as for where it's going, well, it's Disney, so he's going to get Grogu back. Nothing's going to happen to him.
Yeah.
But how that happens, I think there's going to be some pretty epic battles between. I'm hoping all of the people he's kind of come across in the last 2 seasons all band together. Like I'm talking about Cara Dune, Grief Karga, that Mandalorian group that he came across, Boba Fett,
Marshall,
Finnick, the Marshall. I hope it's like one of those epic sort of team up finales where they all take.
They kind of alluded to that at the end, didn't they? Where they would looking up Bill Burr's character from the Prison Break episode.
Yeah.
So he's obviously he's going to come into it. Like there's going to be a big, and I have written here superhero team up. So I did actually think that as well.
I've always said if you need one guy to save the world, it's got to be Bill Burr.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Well, that pretty much wraps it up for this edition of the Popcorn Banter Mini. Keeks, thanks for coming on and giving your thoughts today.
Yeah, it's been good. It was a good episode, so it's good to kind of debrief and see what you thought about it.
There's a couple of episodes left, so we still got a couple of things to talk about before Christmas happens and we scurry on off for the year. And until next week, it's see you later.
See you later.